意，粹高粱之际。
A leatherback turtle of this size is probably 270 years old. Most sea turtles migrate long distances in search of feeding grounds. They're guided by a remarkable navigation system, one that's still mysterious to mankind. Some believe that these great reptiles have a biological compass which enables them to determine directions during the day by the sun and by the stars at night. Others believe that sea turtles remember the scent and taste of the water of their birthplace. No matter how far they journey, they can always find their way back home. Their size is determined by age and type. Sea turtles have to surface for breathing. After millions of years of evolution, they've adapted themselves to life underwater and no longer need fresh water. Sea turtles have a very long lifespan. Many grow past 50 years. After they reach adulthood, both males and females have less noticeable marks on their bodies. Yet males have a long tail and long front claws. Between May and August each year, it's their breeding season. They travel thousands of miles back to their birthplace, dig out pits, and lay their eggs. Only when they've refilled the pit with sand, leaving no traces, is it considered a job well done. They lay about 50 to 200 eggs, each about the size of a table tennis ball. It usually takes about 2 hours. Then they return back to the sea. But despite being hidden, the eggs are always under threat. Even the sea itself may destroy them. Two months later, baby turtles break the shell. After a few days of struggling, they emerge for the first time into this world. This amazing scene happens at night, and by the light of the moon and stars, they're able to find their way back into the sea. However, this is also a banquet time for many predators: birds, crabs, and carnivores. Only the luckiest baby turtles can make their way into the sea. But danger doesn't end there. How long must they struggle before they mature and can begin the cycle of life once more? One species is the hawksbill sea turtle. It has 13 scales on its back. In behavior, in appearance, they are distinct. One difference is their mouth, which is sharp and pointed, while round for other species. Another difference is their shells, which have scale-like shapes layered over each other. Other species have lines on their shell. Another difference lies in the edges of the shells. On other species, they're smooth. On the hawksbill, they're like zigzag teeth. Still another difference is in their temperament. The hawksbill sea turtle is hot-tempered. The hawksbill sea turtle lives at the bottom of tropical seas. They may live up to 1,500 years, the longest of any species on this planet. It's highly endangered. This particular species grows up to 1 meter long and 80 kilos in weight. It can, in need, withdraw its head and limbs into its shell. Summer is their breeding season, and March and April the time for laying eggs, about 200 each time. These eggs hatch at natural temperatures. After about 50 days, the babies emerge. They eat seaweed, small fish, crustaceans, and other soft-bodied creatures. The wind has picked up on the sea surface. Big waves have knocked the small boat against a reed and damaged its screw propeller. All means of communication have failed. The three scientists haven't shown up, and nobody can sail out in this weather to find them. 3 hours have passed and still no sign. White crests are rising in the sea. The alarms are being sounded. The seas are being scanned. At long last, a small boat appears in the distance. This islet, west of the Yongle Ring Reefs, got its name from its abounding coral reefs. Because of the shallow surrounding water, motorboats cannot get too close here. Scientists are surveying the local biological forms and geological conditions. This place is vital to their project because it's a hub of marine life on Coral Islet. The day's work is done. When they're back in their boat, the sun is casting a golden light over the Pla Xi Sha Islands. It's also a golden time for the anglers. After dinner, by lamplight, they gather by the side of their boat and lower their baited hooks. Instantly, a school of herring arrives. Lines and rods are no longer needed. Each fishnet fetches a heavy load, and before long, over 50 herrings are brought on board. Almost everyone in this place is a master angler. The fatigue from a day's hard work and fishing is all worth it.
We may be trying our best to separate and recycle our waste.
Yet waste has been growing.
More than 10,000 tons of waste is being dumped in our landfills every day. The harsh reality is our landfills will be full before we know it. As part of a multi-pronged approach to reduce our waste, a modern incinerator is needed. Reduce, recycle, proper waste management.
At night, a remarkable scene appears. It's a miracle of nature at work. Coral insects are ejaculating billions of sperm. In the South China Sea, this is the season for coral insects to reproduce. Water temperatures begin to rise starting in April. Water currents are still weak then, and the coral at the bottom of the sea becomes active. Numerous coral insects begin to expand and almost simultaneously ejaculate into the water. It's a very rare sight, It only happens a few nights in a year for a very brief period of time. This collective ejaculation is a strategy for survival in a hostile world. It's feeding time for many other species. But because there are so many eggs, even after a feast, there are still leftovers. Lots of eggs in a really short time means there will be leftovers. Any longer, and the predators may come back to feed again. The eggs and sperms meet on the sea surface to make billions of baby coral insects. They take refuge in the floating substances and are almost invisible while making their way to a permanent home. After drifting for a period of time, they'll find a good place to settle down together. Then comes the great collective mission to build a new coral reef. After hundreds of millions of years, these coral reefs have grown into what they are today, small islets scattered around the Pla Xi Sha Islands. Fishermen take them as their temporary refuge after they sail out in summer and before they return home in winter. These fishermen in Jiqing Islet also process their catch into dry food. Through them, scientists learned of a mysterious cave underwater. Legend relates it to the classical Chinese novel Journey to the West. With a local fisherman as their guide, the scientists head off to the cave. The fisherman points out the location on a reef. The water is blue within a 25-meter radius. Then it turns green. Scientists measure the depth. The device can penetrate 80 meters, but they get no results. They throw out a 120-meter-long fishing line, but still they can't reach the bottom. Diving seems to be the only solution. They first lower a 57-meter-long guide rope, the maximum depth prescribed for diving by the American Navy. Anything above 30 meters down is already likely to cause diving sickness. The rope ensures the diver will not be swept away by rapid currents. If a powerful current does sweep in, the diver can climb up the wall with the help of the rope. The diver is now 57 meters deep, where no light penetrates. In the pitch darkness, it's eerily quiet. The cave is cut off from the outside world. The diver decides to climb up following the rocks without using the rope. First, he sees some algae, then fish, and the closer he comes to the surface, the more life he sees. 5 meters below the surface, he comes across a heartbreaking sight: whitened coral. Healthy coral should be vibrant because of the zooxanthella, a symbiotic algae that live inside the coral. However, if the surroundings become unhealthy, the zooxanthella leave and the coral loses its color, becoming pale and sick. The coral insects are left to struggle in vain. The result is a slow death. Over more than 20 years, this sickness has infected many coral reefs in the world. Global warming, rising sea temperatures, reduced salt levels due to the increase of fresh water in the sea, ultraviolet rays from strong sunshine, together with many sources of pollution, are the culprits. But it's not all irreversible. Zooxanthella can return and can bring life back to the coral reefs. Scientists have collected samples at different depths of the sea. It's stored in cans with ethyl alcohol. After they return, they'll do lab tests in hope to find Zooxanthella that can endure the changes in environment. However, there are other culprits, such as the acanthasta, a kind of starfish. It's the greatest natural enemy of coral, and around Jinqing Islet there are many. Starfish move around on their tube-like feet. They're hungry creatures with no table manners at all. They simply cling to the surface of coral, wrap it tightly with their feet and body, then suck out all the coral insects inside the victim, leaving only the skeleton of coral behind. The starfish is a big eater, consuming quantities of coral dozens of times more than its own body size. They're aptly called coral killers, and they're never alone. They attack in millions, eating anything in their path. Their comeback is related to storms which bring nutritious salt from the land into the sea. This boosts life on the sea surface, a perfect source of food for baby starfish. An adult starfish lays hundreds of thousands of eggs in one go, and with plenty to eat, plenty survive. In the past, little was known about this destructive creature. They tried in vain to control their numbers by hiring divers to cut them into pieces. Yet the starfish would die hard. Each piece cut off could grow into a new starfish. A new strategy to control them involves injecting a small amount of poison, just 1 milliliter, into their bodies. However, this strategy has proved very costly and time-consuming. The ultimate solution may lie on the land, not underwater, by protecting coastal lines and preventing overdevelopment. But this starfish also has a natural enemy, the trumpet triton. Hunting for this trumpet triton should be prohibited.
鹦鹉螺呢，它主要外形像个鹦鹉的嘴巴一样，勾勾的，很像。鹦鹉螺为什么这么名贵呢？它是远古的动物，基本是一个活化石了，所以鹦鹉螺是世界公认的比较稀罕的、珍贵的这么一种贝类。第二个呢，就是法螺，因为它就是我们平时的号角吹海号，渔民归来的时候吹喇叭，那个时候没有号，就是用这个当号吹的，是不是能够发号施令的意思啊？叫法螺啊，法螺呢现在越来越珍贵，因为 它外表很漂亮。第三个呢就是唐冠螺，唐冠螺顾名思义，就是唐朝的冠，像个帽子一样，你外表一看就知道，像一个学士帽一样的。
The fourth kind is called the treasure shell. It symbolizes auspiciousness. Nautiloids are first-class endangered species in China. They live 2,000 meters below the sea surface. They are ancient, assumed to have appeared during the Paleozoic era, hundreds of millions of years ago. They are, in fact, living fossils. Most of the time we only see the shells which are left after they've died. These are washed ashore or to shallow water by the tides. Apart from these famous four, there's another kind, a giant called amber tridecan, which clings to the reefs. It's huge. Its shell can be a meter thick. This is the largest one found in Xi Sha, 90 centimeters in diameter. It has lived at the bottom of the sea for over 1,000 years. Most of the shellfish in Xi Sha are large and have a thick shell. That's because of the depth of the sea here.
Xi Sha 的海域吧，平均的深度是1112，最深的地方那个深沟有5559米。
The reef, 150 nautical miles off Hainan Island, is the end location for this project. Around the North Reef, the waters are transparent and azure. The deeper, the darker the blue becomes. The sea bottom here is desolate, with little more than broken pieces of coral. Nothing is between 6 to 8 meters deep. Severe overfishing by extreme measures using explosives and poison is the culprit. All the shellfish are gone. Because coral is an expensive decorative item, some local fishermen and businessmen have damaged the sea bottom to fill their own pockets. The closer to the coast, the more serious the damage becomes, as seen in a curving line running from south to north. So far, according to the United Nations Environmental Programme statistics, up to 20% of coral resources have disappeared in the world, and 60% is seriously threatened. The coral reef is a treasured heritage of the planet. It has survived numerous natural disasters throughout history. Now, it may be lost forever if man is not careful. At twilight, the waters turn dark blue and the color extends all the way to shore. Their boat drifts like a leaf on the water. Were it not for the sound of the water, it's hard to realize that the boat is moving at 10 knots an hour. Here, the seas give yet another warning that all life on Earth is interdependent.